The jury of your peers having found you guilty, 10 years.
Come on, get in that cell, nigga. God. No.
Unconstitutional stop, search, wrongful arrests happen every day. The Community Law Library of Harlem presents Behind the Bench forums for youth and adults to reduce wrongful convictions. Thursday, January 30th, Minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad, the New York representative of Minister Louis Farrakhan, will speak at the first 2014 Behind the Bench Forum at the Harlem Branch Library, 9 West 124th Street, between 5th and Malcolm X Boulevard, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Free admission for a community discussion on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's economic blueprint to end poverty and powerlessness among black people. Thursday, January 30th, 5 p.m. sharp, Harlem Branch Library, 9 West 124th Street, across from Marcus Garvey Park. For information, 347-413-2774, 347-413-2774. Brother Leroy of Whcr is the moderator.
You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
And this is Harlem Community Radio, WHCR, coming to you from the campus of City College in Harlem, USA. The program that you're about to hear, Respect for Life, does not reflect the views, attitudes, whims, deeds, or any other proclivities of the management of WHCR, nor that of the administration of City College. However, the program does reflect the research done by the participants in the program who are live in living color in studio by phone interview, and of course there is you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, the first-class citizens of the world. To God belongs the glory, and we thank the Most High for blessing us with another day on this good earth, another day to do some good deeds, to be with you and you to be with us, doing some good deeds for ourselves, for our families, for our neighbors, our community, and treating people the way we want to be treated. And that means doing good deeds for the entire human race that we run into. Sometimes there are demons among them, but you'll pick up on the vibration and you'll stay away from them. But in the meantime, this program, Respect for Life, is a classroom, and we have been doing a series on brilliant children. We started with PMH Atwater, and children of the fifth dimension, and fifth world rather, and we have continued with various other persons, and among them foremost has been Sister Dr. Velva Bowles of Louisiana. Today we are going to a product of proper education, and this individual reflects a lot of our young people, a lot of our young males who are in the school system today, and we'll hear from him. He is accomplished in the area of science and math, engineering and technology, and we're very fortunate to have with us this morning Brother Wilbert Murdoch. Assalamu alaikum. God bless you, my brother.
Wa alaikum assalam.
And just put those headphones on because you're going to need those when folks call in. Brother Wilbert, we're going to start with the present and then we're going to work back.
Sure.
You have a notion of developing high-tech manufacturing in the inner city communities of America. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, but you desire to tap the resources, the mental resources, the energy, the abilities of our young people that's not being tapped right now. Would you elaborate?
Oh, absolutely. I remember watching one of these tabloid programs this past Sunday about job training for inner city youth. You mostly saw African American and Hispanic faces, but the basic bottom line is that everyone that was being trained to work for somebody else. That's not the new America. The new America is about being independent, being thought-provoking, being high-tech ready, and being healthy. And what I am advocating, and I just put up a campaign on Indiegogo to manufacture advanced technology here in the inner city of New York and spread the concept. In fact, I brought with me the actual technology that's ready to be mass produced. This technology that I hold in my hands can employ tens, dozens, hundreds, and later thousands of people right here in New York City, and the concept can spread. I also have a West Coast technology company that's willing to license their sensor technology to me, and that will also employ a large number of African American and Hispanic people. My emphasis is and has been always our youth. I have been a civil rights activist for people of color for quite some time, unknown to the public. I was the first one that talked about computerizing the New York City Public Library when I was in grad school. And I sent a business plan to the head of the New York Public Library, and I saw my vision come true. I was the first one to advocate setting up technology centers throughout the country, and everybody else picked up on it and ran with it, but unfortunately they didn't do much with it because it wasn't their vision. They just borrowed it. And there were many firsts along the way, but the most important thing right now is that we're now in a position to employ our own and teach them the fundamental skills that they not only can use with us in terms of science and tech, but they can go anywhere in the world and be an expert at what they do, which does not exist anywhere in this country for people of color, and it needs to happen now. It shouldn't happen later. We can't wait another 5 years, 10 years, because another 5 or 10 years, at our current rate as a people, we will pretty much make ourselves obsolete.
Okay. There are those who would say in response, Brother Wilbert, that here's a school in Harlem, PS 94 on West 144th Street, said to have less than 1% of the students, based on these tests that they give them, who are reading and math ready at their grade level. Less than 1%, meaning 99% of the student body has been dumbed down. And we can safely assume that in District 5, which PS 194 is a part of, that in District 5 there are thousands, let's say hundreds of young men and women who've come through that who do not know how to read and write. What makes you think that you have a human source to train to do high tech? You have a circuit board there to do high tech, to even comprehend what you have in mind.
Well, I'm encouraged by my own origins. I went to, when I was a youth, 13 years old, I was a typical child that you see now, that I hear about in my family, and I'm sure other families, troubled, can't sit still, can't concentrate. And I remember when my parents, who were hardworking people, said that there was a school opening for us, black children, an Islamic school called Muhammad University of Islam. And I was excited because I felt that perhaps I'm going to a place of comfort. And it actually became a place of home because my teachers, Bert Jordan, Bilal Salam, and many others, they saw my human potential. And they not only saw my human potential, but they helped to refine it. Meaning that not only did they teach basic academics, but they taught me to believe in myself. They gave me a vision. They gave me a vision of the future. I also had a mentor, Bert Jordan, who happened to be an electronics engineer, unbeknownst to me at the time, but he nurtured me and my understanding of electrical engineering, and it pushed me in that direction because I was always surrounded by some form of technology at the university. I was on the electronics squad. I helped set up the audiovisual equipment where we showed films, mostly martial arts films, and using 35 millimeter cameras, similar cameras to what some theaters still use, although they're now using digital cameras as opposed to the analog cameras that we used previously. But it gave me firm rooting in the reality of my life in terms of where it was at, where I could go, and how far I could take it.
Okay. What years was this introduction? Because people today say, well, I got a camera, I use my phone and all that. But you're talking about way long time ago. That's my words. Way back there. What are we talking about? What years?
When I went to engineering school, because I graduated from the University of Islam at 16 years old, when I went to engineering school, we didn't have laptops. We had to use the mainframe computer to submit computer programs through these punch cards, because you had to write the code, you had to use the punch cards and submit it to the sys operator. They would run the batch, and then you would get a printout, and the printout would tell you what parts of the code needed correction in order for the program to work. That was my year. That was ancient history, and we're talking about the same historical framework as the other top people in the industry, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, you name them. It was at the same time. The only difference is that if they breathed, they could get money, and they could realize their vision. So they built these grand companies based on relationships already in place. Apple computers, and I did some research on this, before they got outside capital, they got an SBIC loan. But yet, if you file a Freedom of Information Act to get access to that particular record, can't be found.
SBIC loan?
Right. It's a version of a Small Business Administration loan. And it was for a small company such as theirs at the time, which means that this is America. America is about making money. And since America is about making money, it takes money to make money. If you think about what's happening now currently in our country, I've been in the high-tech industry for 42 years. I'll soon be 56 years of age. There's not one person of color that looks like us. Not one. There's not one person of color that's a household name in technology, whether they're Hispanic or African American. And I said to my industry in an interview that was published back in 2006, which I presented a blueprint that was read by all the leaders of high tech of how to engage our youth through sports technology, through game technology, through music technology, that these technologies, in addition to rap, could be used to educate our kids like no other system known to man. I go back to my genesis. My genesis basically said, based on what the outside world says, that I was average, that I really couldn't get it. I couldn't be in the special classes like some of my peers when I was in public school, because I didn't have what it took to be, quote unquote, a first-rate student. And strangely enough, fast forward years later, not only did I master 2 particular technologies, but I became the world's leading expert in the science of disruptive technological innovation. And you may ask the question, what does that all mean?
Yes.
It means that I am the guy, as we say in the industry, I am the go-to guy that can create any technology better and faster than anybody else out of 7 billion people on the planet.
Disruptive
technological innovations.
What's
It's
the role disruptive means?
Well, it means that you're changing the current paradigm of a industry.
Right.
Yeah, you remember when we had mainframes and then we had mini computers then?
Took up buildings.
And I've seen some
people
of them.
don't even know what a mainframe
is. It was the computers were so large way back in the day that They took up whole buildings, and they had to be cooled with a special coolant because they would run so hot. Nowadays, you have a laptop, but that didn't come until like the 70s. And Apple wasn't the first, but they were the ones that actually made it more personalized for the industry. And then there's, some finagling here and there.
Oh, getting back to that SBI, small business, SBIC loan.
Right.
That you brought up as an indicator of the kind of funding that this grassroots organization got. When you go into Freedom of Information Act, you can't find that. They're not releasing that information to give you the details on how vast that underwriting was.
Well, it's even a little bit more interesting than that. They can't find the paperwork.
That's interesting.
But it's very common. Just think about this, and this is what people don't understand. When Bill Gates, the CEO of Microsoft, and he's done a lot of wonderful charitable things, and I'm not saying anything negative about him, but when he started out, his father was a corporate attorney.
From the jump.
Yeah, which means that he understood the mechanisms of what to put in place in terms of his business plan. And it didn't have to be a business plan. From what I understand, and if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but his mother also sat on a board that also included the chairman of IBM. So he had access. And I have many IBM stories, and I'm not saying anything negative about IBM, but the basic bottom line is this. It's about money. Everything is centered on money. I have raised lots of money over the past 30 plus years, mostly and only from people of color. Now, did I get offered venture capital money? Absolutely. Did I get offered jobs by people that work for Rupert Murdoch and many other people that you may have heard of? And have I not encountered some of the top venture capitalists in the country, and also some people that work with them that really don't like us at all, and make it very clear if you ever met them in person? I know just about every major player in the industry, either by going to a meeting them directly, and understanding their psychic as it pertains to us. This is why it is important, and I'm asking everyone to donate, because they can go to my Facebook page, Wilbert Murdoch. There's a section that says creating jobs in the inner city for poor people. You can click that on and make a donation of $18, $22, $30, because what it does is it enables us, if we raise the $50,000 that we need to go into production, simultaneously hiring some teenagers that got themselves together, meaning that they're drug-free, they're doing well in school, because we have to start out with the people that are actually doing it, and then we can work our way to the kids that don't have a vision of themselves. Because I remember the most important thing growing up in the Nation of Islam is that I saw examples of success. I saw examples of unity. I saw a vision of successful black people and some Hispanics running businesses, because that left a very long-lasting impression in my mind about, okay, black folks can do things successfully if we have one theme song and we march to one beat. When we have too many beats and too many theme songs, then that's when we go awry. But I'm encouraged that people that listen to you, Brother Leroy, are very savvy. They're very educated. They can do like most media do now. When I'm trying to get some media coverage, they go on Google, they Google me, and they go, nothing. I get no feedback. Now, I've been on every major news program. Now, I mentioned a program that came on Sunday, 60 Minutes. Have you ever seen me on 60 Minutes, Brother Leroy?
No, not yet.
Because the footage got buried. Have you ever seen me on Nightline?
No.
Where the Chris Berry from Nightline came, he interviewed me. He said I was a genius. Did you ever see the footage aired?
You're saying that you have been interviewed for 60 Minutes and Nightline.
Wall Street Journal report. You name it. When they see me, they go, oh. And this was before the age where people had access to Google and they could search
Right.
and see who you
Right,
are,
exactly.
so forth and on.
Right.
Because they understand that this is something new happening. And this is not, has nothing to do with me. This is a part of the divine order. I mean, the Nation of Islam was, for me, a good training ground for encouraging my human psychic. And the offshoots that happened afterwards was another training ground to refine my spiritual eye. And what I have found is that when I lost everything, because even if you're raising millions of dollars over X amount of years, this particular technology, which is your personalized coach, that you can put on your tennis racket, baseball bat, you name it, put it inside your basketball. Now, you probably have read and heard about other companies doing it. Well, they're going to have problems soon, because legally they're not supposed to do it, because we've already done it. We have a patent on it. We have 19 pending patents. So as soon as I can find some competent attorneys, because we're now in a position to sue major companies and minor ones, but the attorneys that always look at our case, they always say to themselves, you know, I might be suing my client. So it's a dance. Everything is about educating yourself, because at one point I had some of the top IP lawyers in the country, and they screwed up royally.
IP.
Intellectual property lawyers. They pretty much protect your inventions, because the government allows you to file a patent, and your patent protects your property. It's almost like having a deed to a house. Your patent is your deed to your house, and it excludes everybody else from coming into your house. And this is so important. Like, it took us 13 years to get the patent, and it virtually bankrupted my partner and I, because we knew that if we work hard, because we worked around the clock nonstop for decades, we knew that one day that it would be our day. And what's so interesting, you look at the gaming industry, all these gaming industries with all of these technologies. Well, you know, you stand in front of it and you can see an image and you can control the image on the screen.
Yes.
Where do you think that came from?
Talk to me.
Came from me. In fact, I was interviewed by Popular Science magazine.
Did the article get it? Popular Science? I got to ask you this thing.
Well, in this case, no, but they actually talked about, and I talked about this phenomenon happening. And when it came to me in a vision, this phenomenon where you could actually control
with your hands and
animation on the screen, because I described it and I created the concept for all of these companies to copy. They've made hundreds of billions of dollars off of my invention, but I don't cry over pocket change, because the best of what I do and the best that will come, given the constraints of your listening audience talking to their friends and family, to support our campaign on Indiegogo to raise this money, we will put African American and Hispanic folks to work with the very best technology in the world, bar anybody on planet Earth.
And I'm glad you brought it up a second time, because we can't mention dollar figures or get into, quote, an outright solicitation.
Understood.
On a non-commercial radio. But suffice it to say, folks can go to the website or to your Facebook page, you said.
Yes.
And get the information. Now, let me go back to the University of Islam. Brother Bilal, who was Brother William at that time.
Yes.
And Brother Bert.
Yes.
And Brother Bert, master mathematician. Brother Bilal, who was Brother William. Brother Bilal, I remember as a linguist.
Yes.
Multiple languages.
Taught me how to pray in Arabic.
Back then.
Yes.
And we're talking about the 60s coming into the 70s.
Yes.
Now, were you you mentioned graduating at 16 from the University of Islam. I remember two young men being admitted to Rockefeller Institute.
Yes.
And I thought that they were brothers. Blood brother, you were one of them.
Actually, it was my older brother.
Okay.
And he went there at 15.
He went at 15 to Rockefeller and had to have a special dispensation.
Right.
To go there.
He went to I think it was called RCI.
Go ahead.
Yeah, at the time, and they wanted him to actually, when he went there, they wanted him to stay there to teach. And
at what age?
At 16.
They wanted him to teach. He went at 15. See, people, we know this. Right. I mean, I know this from having been in the nation at that time, and the two, I have in my head two males,
right,
who were presented to the group, to the body,
right,
and that they were going to Rockefeller or RCI, whatever it is.
Right.
Now, your brother, so bright,
right,
that they wanted him to teach there.
That is correct.
And just continue from there, because I'm going to go to, wait a minute, let me do a station identification, because there are folks who are dialing around the dial, and they hear two Negroes talking. They say, I can't believe this. I can't believe this up in here. But you can believe it, because Respect for Life is a program. We search out individuals who are overlooked by the so-called general media. And these people who are overlooked by the so-called general media are right next door to you. They're neighbors. They're you. Each black person in America has an extraordinary story. Mamas, grandpapas, cousins, nieces. You really don't know who your neighbor is. We have extraordinary people, and it's fortunate that we can interact with you here on WHCR. And I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do a station identification, and we're going to do an event that's coming up this Thursday, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
You're listening to WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem.
What? Huh? I didn't know. What? I'm just going across the street. Shut your mouth. Oh, no. What'd I do? Turn around. Put your hands behind your back. Let's go.
The jury of your peers having found you guilty. 10 years.
What? Come on. Get in that cell, nigga. God. No.
Unconstitutional stop, search, wrongful arrests happen every day. The Community Law Library of Harlem presents Behind the Bench forums for youth and adults to reduce wrongful convictions. Thursday, January 30th, Minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad, the New York representative of Minister Louis Farrakhan, will speak at the first 2014 Behind the Bench Forum at the Harlem Branch Library, 9 West 124th Street, between 5th and Malcolm X Boulevard, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Free admission for a community discussion on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's economic blueprint to end poverty and powerlessness among black people. Thursday, January 30th, 5 p.m. sharp, Harlem Branch Library, 9 West 124th Street, across from Marcus Garvey Park. For information, 347-413-2774, 347-413-2774. Brother Leroy of WHCR is the moderator. And we're back on Respect for Life. Brother Wilbert Murdoch is our guest, a product of the University of Islam on 116th Street. At the time that the building was renovated, there was the school on the second floor, the mosque on the third floor, and business establishments on the first floor. A formula created, a very simple formula created and given to the Muslims by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The University of Islam, the boys went in the morning and the girls went in the afternoon, and that's how we were able to educate hundreds of young people. Now, Brother Wilbert, you and your brother were outstanding examples, but there were more. I remember speaking to Brother Bert, and in the 80s, and Brother Bert said, yeah, I saw one of my students. I asked him, do you ever see your students? He said, yeah, I ran into a young lady the other day, and she said, I just completed my degree. And he said, oh, you got your master's? She said, no. She said, I got my PhD. And these are the kind of students, math and science students who have come out of the University of Islam. Some we know where they are. Mm-hmm. Like Brother Saul is a master mathematician. And you show up by way of Bilal. Bilal saw me in the subway. He said, hey, man, you got to talk to this brother. Mm-hmm. And you're here today. And the environment in which the young people came up in, that's important right now for us to go back to. You in the public school might have been considered hyperactive, don't pay attention, etc. But you come to the University of Islam, and there's a different kind of environment. And the teachers are operating off of a different mindset. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has a message to the black man. He said, I want a school where the teacher makes the student greater than himself, herself. So I looked at that statement. I said, there's two things going on here. One, the teacher strives to make the student greater than the teacher is. And the other part of that is the teacher strives to make the student greater than the student's own self-image of his or herself. Your response?
The whole genesis of the University of Islam and the theme that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as I remember it because I was a child growing up, was based on the principle of love. If you love somebody, the person that you're teaching knows that you love them, and they are receptive to the love. The mind opens up, the body opens up, the soul opens up, and says, I know this person really cares for me. Now, there was no perfect utopia, but the results of unity and focus and dedication was so apparent to me. Now, what I am advocating is that the biggest experiment that's taking place is in the public educational system. And unfortunately, it's becoming a bit unwilling to me, because now the avocation is centered on, let's teach kids how to develop an app or apps. Let's bring in robots into the classroom. And guess what? 20, 30 years ago, it would have been very apparent to do those things. Now those things are obsolete. So whatever skill set that is being brought into the classroom was and is obsolete. Now, one of the things I could say about the university then, because I don't know what's happening now, is that most of what we experienced was state-of-the-art at the time. Closed circuit TV system. State-of-the-art audio system.
At that time.
Exposure to these things expands your mindset. Even Saul was on the electronic squad.
Right.
And the people that love that kind of stuff. And the thing that I'm mindful of is that we must now grow up. We must stop being consumers of the technology, and we must now be the creators of the technology. Can you imagine if I got all the conscious actors and actresses, the athletes, the conscious rappers like Chuck D or Russell Simmons behind me, how this can be such a great phenomenon? Can you imagine if the Honorable Louis Farrakhan knew that I am a product of the University of Islam and how I am now in a position with this great new technology to transform New York City, and I could take the concept to Chicago and manufacture more technologies there, because I got many. I could take it to Atlanta, I could take it to Dallas or Houston, or I could take it to Compton. You know, the whole thing is that this is ready. This is ready for prime time. This is ready to go. This is ready to go out the door. This is decades of hard work and a lot of money If you go on YouTube and you look for Real Smart Electronics or Professor Wilbert Murdoch, WILBERT MURDOCK, you'll see the technology in action, and this is like 13 years ago. Now, they talk about Facebook and social media. Do you know that we were doing social media with sports long before Facebook was even a thought? And meaning that if you were in Saudi Arabia,
Yes.
and I was in New York, if we wanted to compete against each other and we wanted to box each other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We can do it over the internet, over the cloud,
Yeah.
and it's as if we were in the same room. That's my technology. If we wanted to play a putting competition, and this is something that the Steve Harveys of the world like, the Michael Jordans of the world like, you know, Will Smith likes golf, you know, Samuel Jackson. Can you imagine Samuel Jackson and Will Smith playing a putting competition against each other? Will Smith in California and Samuel Jackson in New York City, or anywhere in the world for that matter. This is what we have invented. We have invented the future of sports, training, and gaming, and music technology. I can imagine somebody like Russell Simmons or Chuck D, when they look at our music technology up close, and they see how it can revolutionize music. And I had the opportunity to go to Prince's studio years ago. I was trying to create a new type of technology using his music and Muhammad Ali's image, but I didn't have the funds to make it really happen. But can you imagine all the innovators in music getting behind my effort and what the world would look like?
What you're saying, how does that relate to the hologram, this thing called the hologram?
Holograms, as it's presently used, is nice, but holograms are still virtual. If you're virtual meaning that it's not real.
Okay.
My technology is not virtual. Because if I throw a punch at you and you're halfway across the world, and I want you to feel it using sensors, you'll feel it. The intensity of the hit, you'll know it. You know, the speed of the hit, you'll know it. Because that's what the technology allows us to do. You don't have to be in the same room to play against each other. Because what's going to end up happening, and the reason why I've had such a hard time, is that most of the gaming technology and the sports technologies that you hear coming out, they'll be obsolete in 1 year.
Before we go to the phones, telephone number is 212-650-6903. And you have to understand that you would ask a question based on the material that we've discussed, or maybe some futuristic, that this interview is only a surface interview. It is not an in-depth interview. There are those of you in the audience who are engineers, scientists, doctors, etc., mathematicians, etc., 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 and of course you can throw a formula at them and all that, and that's all well and good. But this is only a surface interview with Brother Wilbert Murdoch, and the issue of you said virtual is not real, but with sensors on, a person could feel it. This is very dramatic. Just putting on a boxing match like that is extraordinary. People would be sitting in front of their things for days. Going back to your brother and yourself, what happened in terms of you coming through? You graduated at 16. What happened after that?
Well, I spent about 5 years at what is now called Polytechnic of NYU. Back in my day, it was called Polytechnic Institute of New York. And just imagine this, because there was another young man that wasn't affiliated with the University of Islam. I met him there. He was also 16. And, you know, fast forward to the future, he's now, he left Poly for whatever reasons, but he ended up going to City College and getting a PhD in computer science. The point that I'm trying to make is that My goal in not only creating jobs in the inner city is also to take some of the monies generated to give a lot of young men and women of color an opportunity to have grant money and scholarship money to study science and technology. Now, just imagine in my immediate neighborhood in the Bronx, I've been surrounded by a lot of kids that always say to me in junior high school and high school that they want to be engineers. I want to study computer engineering. I want to study computer science. I want to study this type of engineering. I want to be a mathematician. But strangely enough, by the time they either go to college or they're in college, they change their major.
Yes.
Which means that, number one, the school may not be nurturing them properly.
Correct.
Because in my day, they not only had counselors there, they had psychologists for the students that needed that extra boost or that extra support. They had a support system there. Now, I was lucky enough in my day in the 70s, I was surrounded by other African American and Latino people, and we were our own support system.
Conscious people,
Right.
advanced thinking, so there was iron sharpening iron.
Absolutely, because we had each other's back.
Yes.
And we made sure that we graduated. We made sure that we, got our degrees.
And you knew what the opposition was.
Absolutely.
And the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad enable you to maneuver in and among negative environments.
Absolutely.
And where a lot of us who don't have that underpinning, which other people will say your belief system is mythology, where they don't have that underpinning, they are seeing a lot of psychologists today because they think that they're the cause of their failure.
Well, you ask yourself a question: who hasn't been influenced by the Nation of Islam? And even if you don't want to say Nation of Islam, you could say Malcolm X or Malcolm Shabazz. You can say the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. You could say many others. My father was out there. He was out there working, hustling, making money, supporting his family. The interesting thing about my life is that my father was an alcoholic, but he heard Malcolm speak, and because of his alcoholic condition, no fault of his own, because he didn't have a support system, when he heard Malcolm X speak, and that was his name at the time, he went back to my mother, as my mother tells the story, and she'll soon be 80. He said to her that I want my family back, I want us to be a family, and I want us to go into the Nation of Islam. And that was the transformation of a man becoming whole again. And you can't ask for a better gift in this life than to get rid of the crutches that hold many of us back. Alcohol, drugs, negative thinking. But my goal, my life is dedicated to not only uplifting African American children and Latino children, but simultaneously, if a Caucasian kid came to me that was poor,
that's right,
I would say, come on into
that's
my
exactly
house,
correct.
because it's about fairness. I gave the example to my friend in Saudi Arabia. I went over there a couple of years ago because they knew about my work, so forth and so on, and they were contemplating opening up a school based on my technologies and whatnot. I'm in the desert, thousands of miles away from home. And the most interesting part of the whole story is that when I was leaving and afterwards, they wanted me to actually live over there and stay. But I knew that I would be doing myself a disservice because I'm needed here. I needed to take care of my parents. I needed to take care of my community first. But I left the door open to go back. And believe you me, when I do this, and then I tell them about, and I've already told them that about my technology, which is at the top of the heap in terms of science and tech, meaning that I have the ability to create new technologies like no other person, based on Quran.
Yes.
They all want to know, well, what do you mean? Well, if I told them what I meant, they wouldn't need me. But more importantly, the most interesting thing about it is that I told my brother over there that I would teach the poor for free, but if you're wealthy, the rate is $1 million an hour.
Telephone number 212-650-6903. We only have a few more minutes with Brother Wilbert Murdoch. And please, I don't need no proclamations. I need a question. Who, what, when, where, and how. Please don't disrespect what I'm saying. Please ask a question. Now, there are those of you who disrespect it, because you don't respect another black man. Ask a question. God bless you in the black ear. Oh, God bless you in the ear.
Thank you. He didn't give his website to send the donations to?
Yes. You can go to my Facebook page.
I'm not on Facebook. I'm here.
Okay. I don't have a website. Are you on Twitter?
No.
Okay.
Okay. But she's got to take the information anyway because you know someone who is on the internet, right?
I'm on the internet, but I'm not on Twitter and Facebook.
Okay. I'm going to give you my email address. Okay. You can email me. It's ProfWilbertQMurdock@gmail.com. It's Prof. Wilbert Q. Murdoch @gmail.com.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
God bless you.
Thank you.
And God bless you in the air. Okay. Brother Leroy doing the flubber dub here. Okay. Telephone number 212-650-6903. Okay. It's not, okay. 212-650-6903. You're on the air. Thank you for your call.
Yes, I would like to thank your guests for the information. Have you tried the lawyers in the Nation of Islam, since you said you couldn't find any competent lawyers to help you with your patents? Number two, could you use Twitter in order to raise the people that you need to raise your funds to back your things? Because there are singers out there that have 50 million people following them every day on Twitter. So I'll hang up and listen to your answer.
Thank you for your call.
Excellent question. To be honest with you, I actually started using social media tools as of this week. Although I've had a Facebook page, I actually started using it in about the last week. I also have a Twitter page. It's Professor Q2. That's Professor Q2. Now, the thing about Twitter that's interesting is that if a person has 50 million followers and you tweet them and other people are tweeting them, now how do they dissect who they tweet back? That's the caveat. Now, somebody knows somebody in your listening audience that knows somebody. And that's like good old-fashioned contact in terms of me reaching back to whoever reaches out to me.
University of Islam lawyers.
University of Islam.
He's Nation of Islam lawyers. That's what he asked.
Right. I haven't spoken to any, but if there are any that specialize in patent law, I would be interested in speaking to them.
Okay. God bless you on the air.
James Malley, the question is this a charitable donation? That's my question.
All right. Thank you for your call.
Well, they consider it, it's through Indiegogo. And these donations are considered to be charitable donations because anybody and everybody can make the donations anywhere in the world. So they is considered to be charitable donations.
Okay. God bless you on the air.
Yes, Will, first-time caller. Can you ask the brother, could he give the name of this Indiegogo project? And people can go to they don't have Twitter or they can go to his Indiegogo and see his project on the place.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes. The easiest way to do it and the easiest way to contact me is three ways. It's Facebook, Wilbert Murdoch, Twitter, Professor Q2, no space between the Q and the 2, or my email address is Prof, P-R-O-F, Wilbert, W-I-L-B-E-R-T, Q, Murdoch, @gmail.com.
Brother Wilbert, the experiences that you have had when you've looked through the papers, you've zeroed in on somebody and you make contact. You don't have to give the company name, but you can give the title of the individual, etc.
I've met some of the leading titans in the high-tech industry over the past 30 plus years. I've met some of the leading venture capitalists in the past 32 years. It's not that the industry is not familiar with my work, but there's plenty of money out there. Don't get me wrong, but you end up working for somebody else. There was a company called Network Solutions that was actually started by an African American. You know the .com that you have to buy?
Yeah.
Those guys are gone. From what I understand, they no longer own that company. They're no longer in charge of that company.
You're saying those were black guys,
right? And many others. One of the things I've seen other companies that I am familiar with take venture capital money. They're gone.
Oh,
they're gone. See, the flip side is that yes, there's a ton of money out there, but we call it taking money from real sharks, because they eat you up, spit you out, and say thank you very much. They don't really care. They have no conscience. So I would prefer, and I took the long road, and that's why I took 30 something years to get to this point, because it's about ownership. And I want to teach our kids about ownership and technology and business up front.
We have another caller. Thank you for your call. You're on the air.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Abdul Rahim Sami.
Yes, sir. God bless you, my brother.
Okay, my brother, question. How much do you think it's going to take his product to market? And how many more years that he got on that particular patent?
Good question. The patent itself was issued in 2010. So we have a good amount of time on the patent. Plus we have we will soon have 19 pending patents. The actual number for us to go into production is that you have to think of production in a different way. You do the design work, you put together your theories, you put together your coding, and you end up with a circuit board, but the software that we have gives the circuit board intelligence. What we're looking for is to raise the money through Indiegogo, the $50,000, and we can go immediately into production and put some of these technologies in maybe some of the hands of the celebrities that play golf or play any sport. I mean, I can imagine, let's say, a Williams sister being one of the first to receive this technology to improve their tennis game.
Okay, my brother.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Brother Wilbert, you have completed this first interview and just need to give the folks your information. But that one story you told me about calling a guy at a particular investment company, he had a particular title, and when you came to that office.
Absolutely. I remember, and this was years ago, I went to, and I'm sure you've heard of the name, Goldman Sachs. I saw a name of a lead analyst in the New York Times, and I called him up. I told him what I was doing, so forth and so on, and he invited me down to the office for a meeting. Well, when he turned the corner, because his secretary told him that Wilbert Murdoch was waiting for him, he did an immediate U-turn and went back into his office, and that was the end of the story.
He asked if this was you.
That is correct.
Just take us through that.
Yeah, he asked, are you Wilbert Murdoch? I said, yes, I am. And he did a U-turn and went back in his office. But, you know, God is good.
Yes,
God
sir.
is good. I took it and used it to go by.
Well, the thing is, you know, we need to know these things. And because what happens in corporate America is that black people do not share their experiences. And people coming behind them go through the same thing and think that it's them. You know, maybe I wore the wrong colors and all that other kind of stuff. So that's why I wanted you to share that story. Give your contact information before we get out of here, and we have to go.
Yes, Facebook, Wilbert Murdoch, W-I-L-B-E-R-T, Murdoch, M-U-R-D-O-C-K, on Twitter, Professor Q2, no spaces, Professor Q2, or you can email me at PROFWILBERTQMURDOCK @gmail.com.
And thank you very much for joining us in the studio. And I thank Brother Bilal for setting up this interview, and he was emphatic. And he didn't give me any details, but I got the details, and the folks got the details today. May God continue to bless you, brother, in your work.
And thank you very much for allowing me this platform.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, tonight Nellie Bailey is on at 6, and at 7 is Martin Lawrence, and Thursday is the event Behind the Bench, and I ask you to come out, meet Minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad of Mosque number 7, hear what he has to say on the economic blueprint of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. May Allah and God continue to bless all of you with a wonderful and a fantastic day.